A mystical house of horrors. Why are ghosts attacking a mother and her 3 daughters? Don't miss out. A shocking confession that will infuriate the psychics. Welcome to Psychic Investigations, a channel of true and impressive stories. Here, people who call themselves clairvoyants investigate intricate criminal cases and incredible mystical anomalies. Olena Tiupa is 42 years old. She works as a nurse in an intensive care unit and raises 3 daughters of 16, 17, and 19. The father left the family. For many years, the mother and her daughters had to live in rented apartments and hostels. They only had one dream: to have a home of their own. Eventually, Olena took out a loan and finally moved with her daughters into their own house.
I was so happy that I wanted to jump.
However, things changed quickly. And now, no one would want to stay within these walls. It all started 6 months ago, when the family heard footsteps in the attic.
It sounded like someone was walking in the attic.
I went up to the attic, but there was nobody there.
Then, mystical phenomena started happening in the house.
I have an icon hanging in the kitchen, and it flew from one corner to where the TV stands.
Then the wiring failed, and then the boiler exploded.
And then something that shocked the entire family happened. Olena recalls going to the kitchen to get some water. The next moment, she felt cold hands on her neck, but there was absolutely no one around.
My vision started to darken. I began to suffocate.
Then Olena fainted. The noise woke up one of her daughters. The girl still can't hold back her tears, remembering how she found her mother unconscious in the kitchen.
It's so terrible. I'm afraid for Mom.
The girls tried to revive their mother, but she didn't feel well at all.
I had a high fever. I was just lying there all limp and unable to get up.
An ambulance took Olena to the hospital. The doctors barely brought her back to life. However, she couldn't imagine what was happening at home with her daughters.
It was an awful night.
We were going to go to bed. The curtain started moving.
I could clearly feel someone's presence.
I heard something scratching in my closet. Then its door opened by itself and something like mist started coming out of the closet.
And a dark silhouette.
And I felt cold around my shoulders.
It felt like my throat was being squeezed, and I couldn't breathe.
The girls bolted out of the room. In the hallway, a large wardrobe fell on them as if someone had pushed it down. The sisters barely crawled out from under the debris and ran out of the house. They spent the rest of the night hugging each other on the doorstep.
I've even had a slight stutter ever since.
Since then, similar terrible things have occurred in the house almost daily. Out of fear and desperation, the family asks the psychics to help them.
I would really like to ask the psychics to come as soon as possible and help us.
The clairvoyants Zhanna Shulakova and Hala Polishchuk took on the task of helping the family.
I had a very strange vision. In it, I was standing at the threshold of a small enclosed dark space. I stepped over the threshold and onto shards of broken glass. I looked into one of them and saw a face. It was a male face. It was horrible, disfigured, and cut all over. I looked more closely into the shard and suddenly the man disappeared. Then I turned around, and there was an old clock on the wall behind me. The hands on this clock stopped at exactly 2 o'clock.
This must surely be connected to that family. Hello.
Hello. Come in. Thanks a lot for coming.
The mother and her daughters are visibly nervous, but it's not surprising at all. They have nowhere else to go. The woman is an ordinary nurse whose salary is not enough to buy a new home, and they can't sell this house.
I felt a strange, bitter taste in my mouth. This happens when I come into contact with the dead. The taste of death, if you prefer. But at that moment, living people stood before me. I shifted my gaze to Olena, and the bitter taste intensified. I could clearly see a human silhouette, like a shadow, behind her.
Ouch, I'm feeling dizzy.
Mom, do you need water?
Bring water, somebody.
Olena is unwell. The clairvoyants help her to recover.
I felt the same last night.
It turned out that Olena didn't sleep at all the night before the psychics arrived. She says she heard eerie sounds in the house again, and then she felt like something was choking her.
I saw a silhouette reaching out to strangle Mom.
The strange entity disappeared, but no one slept a wink until morning.
My God, you survived attempted suicide.
I tried to kill myself as a teenager. After I was raped, I went to the garage and tried to hang myself.
Olena's daughters are shocked as their mother never told them this terrible story. Even now, she refuses to speak about it in front of the camera. One day, when Olena was 15, she came back from school. Her cousin was at home. He assaulted her. Unable to bear the shame, the poor girl decided to take her own life. She grabbed a rope and ran to the garage.
The noose didn't tie.
This saved Olena's life, but a minute later, she faced another blow. Her cousin ran into the garage, knocked her to the ground, and started beating her violently.
He dragged me out of the garage and beat me because I wanted to hang myself.
It's horrifying, but how does this story relate to the paranormal phenomena in the house?
You have a very strong sense of guilt over someone's death. It's your family. Someone who shares your blood.
I had a strong urge to walk around the yard. I felt a strange cold. A woman's spirit appeared. Here. She's elderly. Dark hair, black clothes. Are you her granddaughter?
That's Grandma.
Katya started having a real hysterical fit. It turned out that the girl's grandmother, Yulia, died 3 years ago.
She's suffering.
Yes, she was Mom's favorite.
Grandma was my best friend.
Katya never left her cancer-stricken grandmother's side. She was there until the very last moment of her life and still can't come to terms with the heavy loss.
I would come and lie next to her, embracing her.
She says, "I'm here to get the ring."
She says the man died because of the wedding ring.
Olena remembered that shortly before her death, her mother told her a terrible story from her life. She had a boyfriend when she was young. He proposed to her and gave her a ring, but she refused. After that, the young man hanged himself.
He proposed to her a few times, but she kept refusing. He couldn't take it and hanged himself because of her rejections.
Yulia couldn't forget the tragedy until the end of her life.
She often cried.
The spirit of Olena's mother came for a reason. She asked to bring her the ring that her boyfriend gave her, so it would be with her.
Olena says that when she was dying, her mother really did ask to put that ring in her coffin, but her daughter kept it for herself.
The ring with the red ruby that I took, it cracked suddenly in the middle of the night.
Olena had to fulfill her deceased mother's request and find the ring and take it to her grave. Her mother wasn't to blame for what was happening in the house. But who among the dead was so angry at her that they wanted to destroy the entire family?
It feels like a fog envelops everything here.
Zhanna Shulakova decides to check her senses using her pendulum.
At that moment, I heard a familiar sound, the loud ticking of a clock. The ticking grew louder and louder, then it suddenly stopped. And the clock's hands froze at 2 o'clock.
Zhanna Shulakova had already mentioned her vision where the clock's hands stopped at 2. It's now 1:55 p.m. The tension is rising. What could this all mean?
I thought the stopping of the clock was an omen of disaster, of death. Could it be a warning of impending danger? Oh, I wish I'd figured it out sooner.
What's this?
Out of a sudden, a window in the annex broke. The glass shattered, as if something had been thrown at it. But what was that? There was nothing nearby that could have broken the glass.
I went behind the house as I thought I saw someone run there. My God, this is terrible.
Zhanna, what's wrong?
He's standing, holding the glass.
The man.
I'll cut you. And he's cut all over. It was the spirit of some man. His face was slashed all over, and a powerful feeling of malice, hatred, and anger was emanating from him. The spirit is angry at you specifically.
The girls are genuinely frightened, but Olena seems unsurprised by the clairvoyant's words. It turned out she recently encountered something similar. She heard her dog howling in the yard at night and went out to calm her down.
Sarah, my dog, started reacting to me strangely. She was howling and whining.
And then Olena turned around and froze in horror. A ghost stood before her.
It was a man with his face slashed and covered in blood. He seemed so angry.
Olena says she ran back into the house in fear. When she calmed down, she went out again. There was nobody outside. The gate was closed, and there were no traces. Olena hadn't time to recover from the shock when suddenly something strange started happening to her old mobile phone. The phone hadn't worked for about a year, lying idly on the shelf, but now...
It started turning on and off by itself. Then I heard some kind of hissing, and then a muffled scream. Help!
The voice was coming from the phone, but the device was off. This is absolutely mind-boggling.
The spirit of the man was furious. Nonetheless, I still decided to engage in a dialogue with him to find out who he was and what he was doing there. Don't. No, don't.
Zhanna, what's wrong?
Everyone's horrified. The psychic's hand is bloody.
She cut her hand.
I'm shocked. She cut her hand.
The blood on the ground.
Zhanna. My God, did you cut your hand?
It wasn't me. Oh my God. The man, he lunged at me with a piece of mirror. I covered my face with my hand. Ouch, it hurts.
The clairvoyants ask everyone to leave them alone and prohibited to film them.
What is it banging? Who's in the house?
But there's no one in the house. Olena and her daughters are outside.
Mom, your rose fell.
Indeed, the flower pot is on the floor. But how could it have fallen? There's no draft in here.
It's unbelievable. You know him. You definitely know him. You loved him, but you didn't save him. He's covered in blood because he was in pain. He was crying and calling you.
Uncle Sasha.
Sasha was Olena's partner. She met him 10 years ago during the celebration of the New Year's Eve with friends. They never parted after that, and even lived together. But one day, after an insignificant argument, he packed up and went away. The next morning, Olena found out he had died.
He called me at 11 p.m., asking to come over. I said, Sasha, hold on until the morning. It's night, how can I go? And at 2 a.m., Sasha died.
It happened 6 years ago. According to the official version, Sasha had a heart attack, fell, and hit his head.
The clock's hands in my vision stopped at 2. That was the time of Sasha's death. It all seemed to fit. But why was the man's spirit so mad at Olena? After all, it wasn't her fault that his heart stopped, and the quarrel is really nothing. It's a very minor reason to seek revenge, even after death. Moreover, the spirit I saw was bound to the house. But why was his face mutilated? And what did the mirror have to do with that all?
What's the man's spirit doing in your house? He didn't die here. And why is he so aggressive?
He's angry not because he wasn't saved, but because he's drawn here. At that moment, I saw another spirit in the house. It was a woman. Standing by the doorstep, she waved her hand and said, I don't want to be here. Come, I'll show you my real home.
Zhanna Shulakova goes out of the house and the yard, heading towards the neighbor's house.
A woman died here in a fire.
As it turned out, the woman was the former owner of Olena's house.
Another spirit, a child, approached the spirit of the woman standing by the gate of her house, and the child said sorrowfully, "We didn't want to be there. We were made to return."
I see a child coming, a toddler of about 3, somewhere from there.
A small child died here of leukemia.
When the locals learned that the psychics had arrived at their street, they came out to meet them.
That fence, the one that looks like marble, there are bodies upon bodies there.
An old man who lived there died, and then his wife also died. Then their son died, and so did their daughter. Their 3 nephews died too.
One by one, spirits appeared around us, and the most horrifying thing was that they were all mutilated, just like Sasha, Olena's husband.
But the most shocking thing was what Olena and her daughters later revealed. They believed that they saw the spirits of their deceased neighbors in their house.
The boy comes first. He's very angry. Then some noises start in the house, and the bloody-faced man appears.
Then the long-haired woman in black.
This is terrifying. Why have all the ghosts from the neighborhood gathered in this house?
At that moment, all the spirits disappeared. I turned around. They were all standing in Olena's yard. It looked like they were all drawn there by a magnet.
It seems something has fallen in the house again.
The books fell.
Magic.
Wait a minute, where did you get these?
I read them.
Why?
It was like a game for me. I tried to read cards.
Tell me more about this.
I tried spiritism, summoning spirits.
Well, great!
First you summon spirits, and then you ask for protection. Zhanna inherited her gift from her grandmother. I found a teacher to learn some form of protection. And you just took a book, read it, and that's it.
The clairvoyants are angry, but you can understand Olena. She's raising 3 daughters on her own. She has no support. Perhaps the poor woman wanted to improve her personal life with the help of magic.
Who is this?
My brother,
Who was here?
his wife,
Why did you cut her out?
so that she would leave him alone.
What the hell? What right did you have to interfere in someone else's life? Did you ever think what you were doing?
It turns out that Olena's intentions were not so innocent after all. It appears that she not only tried to master magical rituals on her own, but also sought to harm others.
It was Olena who summoned the spirits of her partner and neighbors. I was bursting with anger. She had absolutely no idea what she got into, and then we had to risk our lives trying to help her. What spirit likes being pulled from their rest? When they come to this world, they are angry because they were hurt. That's why the man with the mutilated face had the mirror in his hands. Olena used the mirror to summon spirits, and passing through the mirror for a spirit, I don't even know how to describe it. When a mirror breaks and shards fall on your face, does it hurt? This is what a spirit feels. Spirits must always be released. Once you have summoned them, you must release them.
She didn't understand what she did.
I'm not dealing with her problem. She messed up herself.
Mom, don't cry.
Zhanna, help us. Please help us. She's very unhappy.
I felt genuinely sorry for the 3 girls.
Pray. Pray to yourself, asking for forgiveness. And remember every instance when you did magic.
Put your feet on the ground. This is an ancient ritual to break the link with the other world. Now I'll make candles. Burn them in your house for 3 days, 1 candle each day. Don't extinguish them yourself. Don't blow on them. Nothing. If it goes out by itself, falls from a draft, or gets knocked over, whatever, if it goes out, don't relight it. Throw it away into the river, for example. And burn those books. All of them. Luckily, we arrived in time and still could help the family. I hope this will end Olena's experiments with magic. But there are millions of people around us who are ready to risk their lives and the lives of others for dubious magical experiments. I hope this story will be a good lesson for them.
I'm not a little girl, but I was so foolish. I got into things I shouldn't have touched.
We did everything we could.
Thank you so much.
If you're impressed by this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Many more amazing investigations are coming up.